it is essentially when we get into a conversation with a pre-decided outcome that suits us is when the biases come in really, right? If it's a bias about how to do the job for the outcome, that's still understandable.
Robert Keegan talks about in the book Immunity to Change that we all have hidden commitments. So on one hand, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the CHRO, I'm the chief curator, I'm the chief operating officer. There's one thing, but at the same time, Robert Keegan talks about immunity to change in the book Immunity to Change that we all have hidden commitments. Do we all agree to that? Right? Now, what do you think? How is this hidden commitments that we have, how is that coming in the way of the organization growth? And what do you think, how coaching can play a vital role to address this challenge?
So I presume hidden commitments is biases?
Could be.
So I guess what comes out is to have these conversations to figure out that you actually have biases. Because quite frankly, when you're successful, you believe that you're free of all of these things, and it's about trying to understand yourself better. And it's more about introspection to figure this out. And once you have a view that probably these biases are blocking in terms of your own performance, more so in terms of the organization performance, more so in terms of the performance of people around you, and try to address them by itself, I think it's a big way. I think as human beings, all of us will have these hidden biases. It's our hidden commitments. We need to figure this out and try and work towards ensuring that it doesn't block progress.
So just to bring another,
it could also be goals.
That's where
the point
I'm
that
just bringing a spin here. One is biases. Second one is as much as I'm the CHRO, my commitment is toward the organization, but there's a deeper hidden commitment that I'm not expressing, which is to myself and my own growth. And that's the reason why leaders, they move from one job to another and leaving behind the job that they made certain promises to. And that is coming in the growth of the organization. What do you think, how coaching can play a very vital role to address this challenge? Anup?
I think, so Gaurav, you're essentially talking about biases to outcomes.
Yeah.
I reflect back when my son's now 22, but when he was much younger, my wife, who's a painter, used to sit down to paint. And she'd sit with a canvas and start painting with no outcome really known, right? And she'd ask him and he'd say, now put the boat in, or now put the water in. And in the end, we'd get a painting which was really beautiful. And so, as you heard with the speaker just before this, it is essentially when we get into a conversation with a pre-decided outcome that suits us is when the biases come in really, right? If it's a bias about how to do the job for the outcome, that's still understandable. And which is what actually you're alluding to. As a finance guy, ideally, if I have a bias, the bias should be to how I want to deliver it, not what I want to deliver it, because the organizations in the end have common objectives for all the stakeholders that they serve. So really, the way I look at it is if we end up creating a coaching culture or coaching positions within the leadership team, which isn't really biased for outcomes, but gives a platform for people to do what they believe is best with an assumption that they all know what is the best for the organization and they'll have it all delivered. Then I guess it sorts the issue out.
What's your views on this?
Just adding on, I think from my perspective, that hypothesis, that principle that the gentleman is talking about, I think will either come from an overarching element of self-confidence about the vision I'm going after as a leader, or a sense or an innate element of insecurity about where would I be if this changes, self-confidence or insecurity, typically. Both ways there is a objective inside, right? If it's self-confidence, and I think coaching, the person is very clear that, hey, if A plus B will equal to C, anything that's coming in the way is going to make it Z. So in that case, I guess the way coaching could help is in terms of bringing it out, maybe the how of the interpretation of that to the employees or to the audience could be changed, because the audience may feel that, hey, this is like it's kind of it's a self-fulfilling prophecy this person wants to get to, and the person isn't listening. In the other case of insecurity, I think it is about so what, so what if this changes, so what if there's a different universe that you can go to or whatever else. I think both ways. I think having the elephant on the table, as far as the individual is concerned, the person confronts it, sees it, moves ahead with it. I think it's the way coaching can help.